hate to say it, but we could be in for a major disaster here inside the United States for multiple different reasons. And I'm going to talk about each one of those reasons in just a moment. But this is going to be a huge problem to millions and millions of Americans. And it doesn't just pertain to the fact that the United States government is currently shut down, which we could actually open up tomorrow. Because according to multiple federal agencies, they are sending out emails today telling their workers to plan to be back to work and in the office tomorrow morning. That's big. But this does not mean we are going to ease the conflicts we're currently facing. Look at this. It says the U.S. wants to start easing flight cuts within a week post-shutdown. So even though the federal government could open up tomorrow, we may be a week away from seeing these flight cuts get reversed. And now we start to see air traffic controllers back at work in full force. We start to see TSA agents back to work in full force. Talked to a friend of mine just this morning. He is very excited about this government reopening simply because his business has taken a massive hit over the past 40 some days that the government has been shut down. He sells pastries at the DFW airport, and he's saying that his business has been hit hard. But look at this right here, because that's not where all the issues are going to lie. Look at this. It says the October jobs and the CPI data unlikely to be released, according to the White House. But why? Well, here's what's interesting. According to reports, they are saying that this data may not come out because of all the underlying information that is needed and put into this data. Just look at this. It says the October jobs and consumer price index reports are unlikely to be released due to the government shutdown. It says the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the other key statistical agencies stopped producing and publishing economic data during the government shutdown, leaving policymakers without key data to assess the health of the U.S. economy. So right now, we have no clue how the U.S. economy is doing because of all the underlying data. The problem, though, we're pushing out all these different plans for a $2,000 tariff rebate check. We're pushing out potentially a 50-year mortgage. And some people really caught on to this. They really thought they did, but they were saying President Trump was talking about a 15-year auto loan. That's ridiculous. Again, that was just a kind of a spam account, but people ran with this and thought, you know what, 50-year mortgages, 15-year auto loan, that's going to be great for the American people. But economists believe that would be the worst thing for us. Let's keep reading this. It says, while economists say some statistics can be retroactively collected and disseminated, there is a possibility that others will be skipped entirely. It says economists have flagged the CPI and unemployment rate for October as those most likely at risk of not coming out due to how the data underpinning them are collected. Yeah, we may never know what they actually were going to say. But here's where things get interesting. Look at this. It says $2,000 tariff rebate checks and 50-year mortgages. President Trump wants to make things a little more affordable. And the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent came out this morning and said they are going to have some major relief announcements later on this week. So possibly Thursday, maybe Friday. This could be big. But at the same time, all this stuff is coming out and President Trump is pushing for $2,000 tariff rebate checks, you got many Democrats that are actually pushing against him. And some are saying that, no, you can't legally do that. Others say that, no, Democrats are not going to help you this time. And then many more that say, sorry, but we are not going to use the tariff money, the funding, because the Supreme Court is skeptical that that money may need to be returned back to the importers on record. But as some people say that President Trump is planning to use this money before the Supreme Court ever comes to a ruling, this is what came out today. the White House is now downplaying the new Epstein emails that mention President Trump. According to these emails, and there are several, Jeffrey Epstein is pretty much saying that President Trump knew about all the girls, knew about what was going down. And so now Democrats in the House are saying, you know what? We need to get to the bottom of this. We need everything released. We need everything to look at to determine if President Trump should be in prison as well. So again, whether or not this is true or this is just a smear campaign, again, we have no clue. But the interesting thing is all this is now coming out as President Trump is starting to gain some ground on the possibility of sending out a $2,000 tariff rebate check. But this is where things get even more interesting. And again, I wish I could tell you things are going to get better, but in order for things to get better, unfortunately, experts say that things will get worse and far worse before they ever get a little bit better. Look at this right here. It says California revokes 17,000 driver's licenses, but the state disputes it is over immigration concerns. It says California plans to revoke 17,000 commercial driver's licenses given to immigrants after the Trump administration raised concerns about people in the country illegally receiving licenses to drive a semi-truck or a bus. So now California is going to revoke 17,000 commercial driver's licenses. Guess what? There's already a shortage of truckers. There's a shortage of bus drivers. There's a shortage of semi-truck drivers. There's a shortage of commercial drivers. And so on top of the shortage that we currently have, we are going to revoke 17,000 driver's licenses. Guess what this means? That our products, especially coming from California, are likely going to be delayed. They're going to take longer to get to their final destination. And in most cases, it's actually going to cost more money. So be prepared to pay a little bit extra. And speaking of cars, speaking of just driving in general, look at this. It says car repossessions surge to 15-year high, raising concerns about an economic recession. It says car repossessions are surging across the U.S., reaching their highest levels since the Great Recession in 2009. That is scary, especially when you see reports like this. Car repossessions are up 43%. They're up 43% since 2022. All I can tell you right now is people are struggling to pay their average $700 to $800 per month car payment. That doesn't include maintenance. That doesn't include fuel. That doesn't include insurance. Okay? That doesn't include a lot of things. So easily people are spending over $1,000 per month for a car. That's crazy when the majority of people are only making $4,000 to $5,000 a month. So where do we go from here? Well, this is the reason why I'm saying that this is going to be an absolute disaster. According to multiple reports, what we are now facing is, first off, there's a positive sign here. As I'm making this video, the federal government is yet to reopen, but the House is in session and they're voting today on opening up the federal government. And as long as they pass that bill, which is seen as highly likely, then it will go to President Trump's desk. He will sign it and it will become official. That will happen either later today or sometime tomorrow. With that said, that's the only positive news. Everything else, as of right now, is likely negative. So, here's my advice to you. Just prepare for the worst. Okay? Everyone always says, to plan for the best, prepare for the worst. That's what you need to do right now in 2025. So, I'll leave you with that, but if you have anything to add to this, any positive news or negative news, please put that down in the comment section below. But again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.